What is the dilly, yo? What's the dilly? Sorry that it took me a little bit. It's something wrong with my internet. It's just the worst, and you guys are probably getting buffing right now. Hopefully you're not. I haven't even got a notification to see if I was even live, but I'm pretty sure you guys haven't either. So hopefully it's working. I don't. That's the wrong one. Hopefully it's working. So what's going on? It is Wednesday, Wednesday, December 5th. It's a gloomy day in California. Very gloomy, maybe because the 41st president funeral has been kind of engulfed by media. Everything that's been going on has been because of that. That's all you see on the news today. So I want to get into a couple things today. First, like I told you guys on Monday, that I wanted to, and like I said earlier, if it's buffing, it's something wrong with my internet. So hopefully it doesn't continue like this. I rerouted and rebooted my router like 3 times. So hopefully it doesn't interfere with anything because I got all this stuff set up. But anyway, what I want to get into first is the second part of Jordan's interview with Nick Brana. He's the founder of People's Campaign or something like that. What is he? He is the. Just show you who he is right quick. So I'm saying his name, but tell you exactly his title and his organization. Jordan. And yeah, I got 6 people, so probably for the most part, this thing is just acting crazy, and it's probably really just that's shitty. But anyway, I'm gonna continue to go. So the second part of the interview, I want you guys to see it. He is talking to Nick Brana, he's the founder of Movement for People's Party. And earlier this week on Monday, I showed you guys the first interview. I want to get into the second interview before I actually get into the topics that I want to talk about today. One of the things that I want to talk about is Republicans, and I guess everything that I talk about today just kind of embodies hypocrisy and their party. You know what? Interesting enough, it's weird because I guess I can say their party because a lot of things that I'm going to talk about has historical context. So at one point, the Republican Party was for Reconstruction and things like that. But the reason that the dynamics changed between the Democrats and the Republicans is because those same Democrats that were Southerners and part of the Confederacy just moved to the Democratic Party throughout the 50s and 60s, and in the 70s kind of solidified it after LBJ got into when he first made his first campaign. So, but I just want to talk about the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. I mean, the Republican Party. You know how they talk about voter registration fraud and how we're finding out now that the House race in North Carolina had a lot of fraud in it. And then also you're starting to see now because Michigan and Wisconsin, the gubernatorial races were won by Democrats. Now the people in office want to change the law so that the governors won't have a lot of power. And they've kind of been very honest about we just don't want those liberal views in our city, which is kind of absurd that you can get a small group of people that seemingly talking for an entire state, and I'm sure without talking to any of their constituents. But like I said, we're gonna start off with this interview. We get this interview off, and then we will go from there.
Well, one thing that I see, and I want to bring it up into what you guys are doing, I see that especially with General Motors this week. I mean, what do you call this? General Motors gets, I think they made off with like $22 billion after it was all said and done with the bailout, and then stock, CEO bonuses and all that. I mean, before these job losses, the taxpayer lost billions of dollars on this, and then they're laying off all these people, saying we want to do, more automated cars and electric cars. What a novel concept. Maybe train these workers to do that, because the cars aren't going to make themselves. But it's all, investors were very happy because they just look at the dead carcass of the middle class as an opportunity for them. So I wanted to ask you, it seems like between the Richard Ojeda types in West Virginia, obviously the people that voted for Donald Trump, and seeing these layoffs and the plants aren't coming back, might be opening up to, well, maybe this man isn't exactly a populist savior. It seems like there could be a resurgence of labor if the right messaging and the right, and I know MPP is doing that. You guys have gotten galvanized and kind of synergized with a lot of labor leaders to try and basically create this new party.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that we've taken on number one, and that we've found most successful, kind of as our highest priority, is that we believe that building a major new party is going to be a collaboration between labor and between social movements and the progressive movement. And it's that kind of collaboration that we're building right now with a campaign called the Labor Community Campaign. And that's a dozen progressive organizations across the country, and also more than 700 labor leaders and activists who've come together into this coalition and have said that the time is now, the time that we need to start laying the groundwork for a major new labor-based party. The United States is actually internationally unique among Western countries of not having a labor-based party. The Democratic Party has long since traded its New Deal alliance with labor for a partnership with corporations. And so what we're aiming to do is really unprecedented, and it is bringing together, it hasn't been done ever since the 30s, really, in bringing together social movements and labor for a major new party. And we have some incredible support for that. We have, on the progressive side, we have Chris Hedges, who's come out as an endorser, Cornel West as well, Jimmy Dore. Would love to have your support, Jordan. Abby Martin just endorsed us as well and covered us recently on her podcast. And on the labor side, really exciting, we have former members of the AFL-CIO Executive Council, current members as well, Baldemar Velasquez, who is also the head of the Farm Labor Organizing Committee, 23,000-member Latino union in the Midwest in North Carolina, which endorsed us just a couple of weeks ago. We're very excited about that. And on top of that, other labor leaders like Nancy Woolforth, the head of Pride at Work, former AFL-CIO Executive Council member as well. Al Rojas, who's a co-founder of United Farm Workers of America. And Donna DeWitt, who's the former head of the AFL-CIO in South Carolina, the state president. So there's some really prominent labor figures who are getting behind the call for a major new party, and we're really glad to be making this unprecedented progress, because we think that it's a sign of the times. It's a reflection of the fact that just like labor is getting more active in the teachers' strikes and in the Marriott strike, for example, becoming less willing to accept the status quo delivered by the Democrats and Republicans, and that's translating into a recognition of the need for a major new, genuinely progressive labor-based party.
So, with the caveat, this isn't a duck, but this is how I was in 2016 and how I am now. I don't generally endorse candidates or things just because people know what I believe. I'm progressive, but I can't really cover things fairly if I'm basically boostering for them too. However, with that said, here's where I stand, and I'd like your thoughts. I think whether it's taking over the Democratic Party or whether it's a new labor-based party, which I actually think is a great idea, I think neither one matters if we don't address the issue of the media. Because to me, and I'm sure you have some thoughts on this as a Bernie veteran, I mean, I'm no longer with the Young Turks, so when I'm not traveling, I'm home, and basically there's no progressive all-day channel on, so I have no choice but MSNBC and CNN, just to see what's going on or what they're not covering. And what I see is, at the end of the day, if there aren't protest movements as much outside city halls and state legislatures and this and that, outside CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, to actually, I mean, these folks are actually accomplices to what's going on. I mean, we can't sugarcoat it anymore to say, oh, they're just out of touch, this and that. No, they're knowingly doing public relations and stenography for their corporate parents. So I'd love to know what you think, because to me, Green Party is not going to get any attention in this current media climate. MPP is going to get, grassroots attention from independent media and this and that, but you're going to be minimized as, communists or whatever by the corporate media. So my point, going into 2020, but bigger picture, what do you do about that? Because that, to me, is really the crux of it. If you have a media elite that the majority consider to be paper of record and the standard bearer for news, it's kind of a brainwashing of the populace.
It is, but at the same time, their power has greatly eroded. Thanks to the internet, as thanks to we're able to broadcast now. People can watch us, will be watching us, as a result of the fact that we have new technologies that have literally eroded their power to concentrate, power and to act as gatekeepers. The Bernie campaign was entirely a product of the internet.